Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to another podcast of How the Culture Gets It Wrong. It's our podcast on dating, sex, and relationship insights with myself, Andre Paradis. And this evening, we're going on number 3. Special guest star in the house, a fellow coach or speaker, a woman in the world trying to change the world as I am. My friend Paige Parker is in the house. Paige.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Paige in the house, along with my wife Nancy and Tess, my assistant.
Hi guys.
So
welcome.
Tonight's podcast, the topic is the unspoken modern fairy tale myth, ladies, of the have-it-all syndrome. Dum dum dum. Can you relate, ladies, the have-it-all syndrome?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
You know, talk about where the culture has it wrong and raising you inside out of your natural essence. And, you know, it's not that it's impossible. There's necessarily something terrible about it. It's when it goes too far. Too far. It goes awry, and then there's a price to pay. I say this all the time. You know, people talk about the stereotypes. You know, like, there's no stereotypes. This is stereotype. It's a terrible thing. Women can do more than, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. You know, and men can be more. Yeah, absolutely. Still, the stereotypes still line up better with your bodies. You know, a masculine man is a better person than a feminine man in the world, typically. Do you know what I mean? There's a flexing through it. There's a scale, obviously. If you're too masculine, you're a pig, possibly, right? But if you're too feminine, you don't handle your life. So men do better, or better in the world, feel better, are better use to everyone and to women when they step into their masculinity more. Same with the ladies. When a woman lives through a feminine more than a masculine, her true essence gets to glow, right? Her energy shines. It makes me catch my breath. Like, to be in the presence of a feminine woman is such a treat, right? But the culture has this knocked out of you. And like it's weak and it's lame, and it's the most powerful thing in the world. In my book, and we're going to talk about this. So, Paige, so how we get to be here first, Paige has a book called Feminine Fulfillment for Women Over 40. And there's a real reason why for women over 40. It's pretty much your life, right? So tell us how we get to be here in this book.
Okay, well, I wrote it when I was getting close to turning 40, and I had something happen to me where I felt like, is this all there is? It was a question, and a lot of women, I think, have this question, but they may not always say it out loud because it could be like, well, people might think I'm crazy, or I don't really understand what's happening to me. I don't really know what's next in my life. And I just thought, is this all there is? Like, why am I not fulfilled? You know, I kind of felt like I was the only one.
So you're like, what, 40-some at that point?
I was almost 40.
Almost 40.
And then, yes. And so I entered a new inquiry at that time in my life.
Did you feel like you hit the wall or some version of that? I mean, what was that like exactly? Because there's different ways that this happens.
Well, what happened was I really just stopped being interested in the things that I used to be interested in.
Which were?
I realized, like, masculine pursuits, my careers, being so successful, being at the top, being number one, being phenomenal. And and I just stopped being interested in that. And I really did some soul searching, and I felt alone. Like, I felt a little bit lost, and I didn't want to tell anybody that I felt a little bit lost because I didn't think anybody understood. And I'm a leader, you know. I'm in charge. I'm the woman that you want to follow, and nobody wants to follow someone who's lost or feels lost. So I had to pretend like I wasn't lost, and that didn't go well.
So that moment when you say you weren't interested in that anymore, was that like a brain thing, a body thing, a burnout thing, like, what was it, if you could explain?
I think it was all of it, but it was mostly a soul thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like,
my soul, I felt like I was just, like, I felt like I was kind of just dying. Like, there was something that wanted out. There's this just knock, but I didn't know exactly where to go to get it. But I knew there was more. I knew that there was more, and it had to be somewhere in the world of fulfillment, but I didn't really have that languaging yet. And I call it, like, my heart and soul recession. I just kind of went inward and didn't understand what I was doing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So what came next?
So I went to researching it. I thought, I can't be the only one. And being a hairdresser, and I kind of call myself like a therapist because I
love
had done it for
Therapist.
so
Yeah.
long, and I'm recently retired now, but I did it for 33 years, and most of my clients were over 40 and women. And women talk, and when you're a hairdresser, people trust you, and you're touching them, and they want to tell you your stories. And so I started interviewing women and asking them, like, what do you feel like is going on with you now, and documenting and researching, and really just started interviewing and using myself as a research project.
Oh, wow.
Oh, smart. So let's go back a little bit because, it started, the reason we got there, the reason we operated in the world in the masculine sort of started when you were little. Right, and I know your story. It's in the book, by the way. We're gonna hook up the book later on for you guys to read. It's a good story, good story, inspiring. From that to here, whew. So, in a nutshell, I started right away. The well, go ahead, explain to us, like, with family situation with little girl.
Oh,
Daddy.
Yeah,
Right.
I share in my book that there's a story that when my mom sat us down one day, my sister was 10 and I was 7, and she said that her and my dad were gonna get divorced, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and she's 3 years older than me, and she said, "Hey, your dad and I are gonna get divorced, and I have to go back to work," and that was it. And I remember my sister crying, and I felt nothing,
Wow.
like nothing.
You were 7.
I was 7. And
Wow.
and the next memory I have of that was I was out playing kickball with a little friend of mine in the front yard, and he had his microwave. In the 70s, microwaves were like portable.
I didn't know that.
And you could just carry them, kind of like the camping kind now, but that's what
okay.
microwaves started out as. And we had that, and an Afghan that his mother had knitted for him, just like a comforter type knitted homemade thing that kind of looked like hot pads. She was just really domestic, and he took those two things, and I didn't look at him, and he didn't look at me, and he drove off, and that was it. And I remember noticing that there was a sense of relief, but feeling nothing.
No, can
And
I?
I felt ashamed
So-
about that for later in my life.
Yeah.
And you said you felt the sense of relief?
Yeah, like I
little
didn't.
bit?
They
Yeah.
fought a lot, and
Okay,
I didn't like him
okay.
talking to my mom disrespectfully. So, but it was just like, okay,
Yeah.
So from there, basically, what happens to a little girl without feeling safe in the world, with a primary safety provider, the daddy, she becomes her own safety. She has to build her own safety. She becomes masculine. This is how women become masculine by accident.
Yeah.
Circumstances, life,
Yeah.
things that happen to her, right? But primary daddy one is a big one. So the reason she felt nothing, she was already
She was already there.
on her
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
She went on her
Yeah.
own for years before even get to leave. So and relieve from the stress that created in the house. Now jump from there, and I completely get it. And you have a story that's familiar to a lot of women. Now from there into your 20s.
well, wow. So when my mom ended up remarrying, and we lived with him, and in my world, I kind of just noticed. I've always noticed dynamics and relationship dynamics, and I remember her feeling, like very dependent on him, and me just watching and noticing, and me saying to myself, like, I will never depend on a man for anything ever. Like, this bullshit will not be my destiny. Like, I'm gonna live life on my terms. I'm not gonna be dependent on a man.
Go girl.
None of it. And I kind of call that like I sentenced myself in a way. And so I just couldn't wait to grow up, to get out, to be my own woman, and I was just gonna take it on.
It sounds fantastic. doesn't
Yes.
it? It
It
sounds
It does. It's like
It does
empowering.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You go, girl. Okay.
Yeah,
Don't need no
exactly.
man. Okay.
That's so funny.
Then what?
And well, that's when I kind of decided that I had to
Yeah.
do this like unspoken modern fairy tale, like we're talking about here, and the do it all, be it all, have it all. And not only do you have to do it all, be it all, and have it all, but you have to be phenomenal at it. Like that's the only option.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you have
Wow.
to, and that's just the unspoken part, and that's what we feel. And so many women in the 70s and the 80s, like we kind of grew up with that. Like I can bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan. And that's just what I moved into, not knowing, and I was just going to be on my own, and I was going to do it.
And it sounds empowering. I get it.
Sure.
Except
Yeah.
the price to pay.
Yeah.
What is the price to pay? Because
Yeah.
then there was a price.
There was a huge price. And, with relationships, and I have marriages that didn't work out. And I know the reasons now why they didn't work out.
can I-
But then I was very confused. I didn't know, and I tell that journey in my book of like what happened. So
Yeah. So what I want to bring my part here that I saw when I was reading your book is, when a woman is in a masculine, and this is what all my clients, by the way, this is interesting. All my clients have the same issue. I'm strong. I'm independent. I got my own business, my own money, my own car, my own blah 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 blah. I'm fantastic. Why is no one dating me? What's wrong with me? I'm pretty. I'm still young, and no one's. I have a date with a man. He says he's going to call me, never calls me back. What is wrong with me, right? And what's happening is. Or they end up with men who don't work, men who don't do anything, men who are allergic to work, right? We call it those omega males now. There's a new, there's a new clarification. There's a new distinction. Their life is so hard for them. You have no idea how tough it is. It's really hard making money in LA. I mean, really, really, women are making it, but whatever, right? Like this. So women that are stuck in their masculine. Stuck because that's really what it feels like, even though it sounds empowering and you go girl and you're working your way up to CEO of some corporation, way to go. But when it comes to love relationship, it's good for money, it's good for doing stuff in the world. It'll irritate the hell out of your friends, by the way. Masculine women are irritating. I hate to say, but especially the men, but your friends are going to just find you really a pain a lot. In love, it's complete destruction, right? A masculine man is not interested in that. A masculine man will instantly turn off. A masculine man
or
will
compete
not
with you.
Will not compete with you. He doesn't want to.
Right.
Like he'll just smell you and go, "Oh hell no!" Right? So these women never get to meet men. They meet boys. They meet the omega males, the ones that don't want to work, the ones who want you to mother them and take care of them. And life is so hard for them. They have excuses. They quit their job after 4 months because my boss is a douchebag. What? Men don't do this, right? Like who cares about how you feel about your boss? It's the job, right? Like it provides whatever. So it's a mechanism. It's a mechanism. It's not even a thought process. It's an energy flow, but it's really if you're masculine, ladies, you're going to attract feminine, and you're going to think that's men. No, that's boys. So the formula here, that's the price to pay, and that's really when you get to wake up to this, because then you hit the wall. Paige, you hit the wall, and this is where we're going next. When this thing does not work, as great as it sounds, bad relationship after bad relationship, from boy to boy to boy, right, and feeling completely empty and drained from being the man this whole time. Then you hit the wall. Go.
Depleted, yeah. 100% depleted. So I found myself what I call a heart and soul recession. Like I said before, like lost. I just didn't know. And then I created a language around it, and I called it phenomenon. Phenomenon.
Wait, like as in you're phenomenal?
Yeah, like the masculine energy phenomenon that I was so ambitious and I was wanted to work towards my whole life, and I had all the success in the masculine energy world. I wasn't interested in anymore. I didn't want to do any of that.
Wait. Like, how? Like all of a sudden, like how? I mean, that was your identity.
It was my identity, and I kept trying to do these things that I used to do to have success. And at the time too, we were in a recession in Southern California, and that doesn't make it okay or an excuse or anything. But there was a kind of a scarcity conversation going on around, and I had businesses that weren't doing the way I had projected that they would do, my financial projections and what was going to happen. And I was getting divorced, and I had to support kids by myself. And I kept doing all these things that used to work, and nothing worked. And go ahead. Yeah.
What does that mean?
That stuff didn't work. The masculine energy stuff didn't work anymore.
How? Like because you didn't have it?
I didn't have it. I didn't have the energy for it. I didn't have the drive. I didn't the
push.
Yeah, like the push and all the like being phenomenal and all the things that do it all, be it all, have it all. Like I didn't have it in me anymore. And I felt like I was lost in transition in that transitionary period. And it's the thing that no one tells you.
If you're aware enough to see what's happening instead of fighting all the way through. Wow. So the body says no.
Yeah. And the soul said no.
The soul said no. That's what I want to get to.
Yeah.
Say more.
Yeah. I wanted to live my heart and soul's desires, and I wasn't doing it. My heart and soul's desire wasn't to be burned out. It wasn't to be depleted. It wasn't to be a man. It wasn't, to be like a man. I just wanted so much to have something that I knew other women had. And I didn't know what it was. You know, I had to try to figure it out. But I knew other women had it. So it has to be attainable, you know? So I went to research on that. And I was single at the time too. So there was more research going on with the dating and being over 40. And I started talking about it and researching it with women there. I'm going through the exact same thing. And so then I started interviewing women, like, what really makes you happy? What makes you really feel fulfilled? And the most interesting answers came.
What are the answers?
You're like, what are your heart's and soul's desires? Our heart and soul's desires are truly what makes us the happiest and makes us the most fulfilled. And when we're doing that, we're ecstatic. You know, we're in our feminine energy and we're, you know, making a difference for whoever it is that we want to make a difference for, not doing something as a task.
Sure. What's that look like for
or
you?
a checklist.
What's that look like for you?
Oh, well, for me, you know, making a difference in the world, inspiring the human spirit. But I really want to help women discover their feminine fulfillment and living their hearts and soul's desires. And that takes courage to do that.
God, yes. Oh, wow. I felt that. So the
too.
before and after are drastically different.
So
Yes. Yes.
So different.
Wow.
So say more. You talk about the book like the power of vulnerability. You say it differently than that. How do you say it?
Oh, I do. I have a chapter in the book called Vulnerable is the New Strong.
Yes. Oh, please talk about this. I say this all the time. I say it all the time, and
Totally.
nobody really knows what that means.
Yeah. I'm talking about the vulnerability and the strength. Like, it takes so much strength to be vulnerable. And your feminine strength is to be authentic. And like, if you look at like women I admire, you know, like we all love to talk about Oprah, but as we've seen Oprah grow, you know, she's done the ugly cry. She's lost weight, gained weight, lost her dogs. You know, she transitioned from her show, the Oprah Winfrey Show, to, you know, her magazine and the OWN network, and she's failed and she's talked about it, and with her weight and her struggles, and you know her man's name, you know how many dogs she has, you know when her dog died, you know her struggles, and she shares about them and all of the things that she does, and when she fails she talks about it, and when she has success and when she got sued and all of those things, and she really has let us into her life. We know her because she's vulnerable. She's one of the most powerful women in the world and the richest.
Right, absolutely.
But from vulnerability, and that's her strength. That's why we're like, oh, girl, you get me.
Well,
she's like me, I'm like you, because she's shared.
Yeah.
No, the way I put it is, it's just, I say the same thing. The magic of vulnerability is that when you're vulnerable and you let people see you completely, being transparent, it's scary as heck. You know, first of all, it's scary because, you know, people might use this against you. However, you know, you have to be somewhat selective, I think, sometimes, maybe in the beginning. But when you're truly authentic, somehow people feel like they know you and they can actually grasp onto who you are. And that's really attractive because, you know, everybody's got this cover, these masks, and we all walk around, you know, trying to be something or project some kind of image. When you're vulnerable and open, you know, people can actually feel you, and all of a sudden they want to be around you. And, you know, this is kind of the magic, like you talk about Oprah, you know, somehow we feel like we know her.
Yeah.
You know,
and
somehow.
you connect with their heart and their soul. You connect with them. That's an automatic connection.
And that's her success. That's the formula of her success. Like, this woman just sort of like, and I get that. So what's that look like for the average woman? Vulnerability is a strength.
Well,
I'm going to be a feminist right now.
Okay.
I'm going to be a feminist. I want to go, so, okay, that's all fine. Okay, that's all fine. Okay, it's fine. But like, how do that work?
Yeah.
Vulnerability. How do that work? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm waiting. Go ahead.
Wow,
That's so much fun. How do you do that at work? Well, first you know that you're going to unzip your heart a little bit towards people. And as courage, you're going to decide to do this and be brave. And you're going to, you don't have to totally undo it. You can just unzip it a little bit to be a start. But being the best version of your feminine self is automatic strength.
Like, how do you be feminine at work?
Well, you can be feminine at work by being who you are because you're a woman. And femininity, there's so much strength in femininity. In my book, I talk about your superhero powers. And I have you choose 5 of what your shiro powers are. And those, I believe, are your strength and are your power, is your feminine strengths. And so being those strengths is automatically powerful, and it automatically causes people to connect with you. It automatically causes success. And if it doesn't, there will be times that it might, and it might not be the right person, but that happens in any way. It might not be It could happen in any situation. Something could go wrong with with anything
Right,
if you
right.
share too much or somebody could hold it against you, and that
There's a
happens
line.
everywhere in life.
Yeah.
But that could be whether you were being vulnerable or not. That could happen too. So knowing what your superhero strengths are.
Superhero Shiro.
Shiro.
Well, what are yours?
Shiro.
What are yours? Because it's abstract until you break it down. What's
Okay,
yours?
well,
Give us some.
I know for sure I'm a muse. I'm very inspirational and inspire people, and I know that about my purpose in life. So musing and making people feel inspired and comfortable and at peace with themselves and not judged, and having access to discover what inspires them. And I know that's a strength of mine.
Cool.
Inquiry is another one. So my research, like I can't stop myself from being in inquiry, which makes me, really intelligent with what I'm intelligent about, which is a great strength. I don't claim to be intelligent about everything, but I know a lot about what I know about, and I want to keep knowing more. I don't know everything.
Right.
But that inquiry and that the research and the discovery is really, really exciting.
Those are your two big ones?
Those are my top two.
Well,
yeah.
what are others from other women? Maybe?
Feminine, yes. The interesting thing about when I did the Super Shiro strengths, I didn't put the word strong as a choice. And I did it
Because it
for a
sounds
reason. I did it
masculine.
intentional. It is, yeah. And so I put the feminine strengths in there. But I look at women as strong. We're automatically strong from our feminine strengths. And so, so not being able to pick strong as a choice causes you to go deeper. Our natural strengths, our feminine strengths are so incredible. That's where we get it from, and that's where we're the most empowered and powerful and inspiring and fulfilled.
And that's the part men are looking for.
Yeah.
That really the culture misses completely. They think we've put power into a masculine paradigm where women emulate man's power, competitiveness, acquiring, pushing, fighting, winning, and that's all good for business. But in love relationships, when you can't separate that power from your true, ultimate, greatest freaking power, which is your femininity.
Yeah.
Hello, right? But nobody teaches that. There's no role models.
Right.
Where are the role models?
And the discovery. Yeah, exactly.
Where are the role models?
Right.
I was just going to ask you, so you talk about vulnerability a lot in, as a way of life, and helping your work life. And then how does this help your relationships? How did that start and evolve?
Oh, wow. So that's a great question. And it's, where should I start with that? It ended up being on the other side, but I was guarded and I was in my masculine energy a lot, and that didn't work for me in my relationships. And I had to go through the learning curves of finding out, what worked and what didn't. And I couldn't figure it out for a while because I didn't know that it was masculine energy was leading it. And I discovered when I was single and started researching this in my 40s that I was really open, but I wasn't available. And there's a huge difference.
Hello.
Oh, interesting.
Hello.
Yeah. And being available is being vulnerable. Open is, it's great to be open, but you don't get the true self. You don't get the true essence. You don't get to see the whole me.
It's not enough.
And if I'm available, you get right.
That's the magic right there. They just
Yeah.
want one to be open. It's like, I'm here, and maybe if you talk to me, and maybe, and it's not really,
Right.
it's not really inviting vibration, as in like vulnerable, which is like,
Yeah.
this is me.
Yeah, and it could show up for men, I think, and for people as like a ring of fire. Like, let me jump through this like hula hoop with fire,
Right.
and let's see if you can do it without getting burned.
The new husband? We have a new husband?
Yes.
Congrats.
Yeah, my heart and soul man.
So
Yeah.
look at the face light up.
Oh,
You
so
see that?
cute.
Yes.
So we want to know this part,
Okay. Well,
because there's a new way of operating now
there is
from
a new
all
way
this.
of operating now, and I had decided I would never get married again because I thought if this is marriage, it's not for me. I'm not ever doing that again. And then I made a new decision when I became available that I don't have to put my past into my future. I don't have to live like that. But if I would get married for the first time, like I have nothing to compare it to. Like I've never been married before. I have no past to compare anything to. And if I would have an incredible partner, and if I would be a happily married woman being married to a happily married man, I would do that. I would be available for that.
Right.
And so I know that you can manifest that. So I wrote out this list, and my list included who I am for him first, and then who he is for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So stating, that I'm his muse. Okay, go ahead.
Who I am for because I have this thing against lists. I'm against lists completely.
Yeah.
Because the list typically at the end, instead of like 4, 5, 6 items that are logical, make sense, or it becomes like, this list of 65 things, and now you have a unicorn that doesn't exist, that if you manage to meet the unicorn, the one in the world, he has to like you back, which doesn't anyway. So I call it like a list to me is like be alone list. Keep writing a list so you'll be alone. So keep that up, right? But no, you start your list.
It is
you start your list with
who I am for him.
That's really
The
new list.
I'm taking
the
that.
new list.
I'm stealing that. That's mine.
It is.
I mean, I'm taking it. I'll give you credit. But so if you start with you, what does that look like?
Well, I wrote like who I am for him, like being his muse, and him really valuing, understands my past. Like the guy that, can get me and wants to grow with me. And who I am for him is that person, that support person, that partner, that person that will love him. And I'm his heart and soul woman too. I wrote that because what I knew I didn't want was a relationship or someone or to date. I didn't want that. I wanted my heart and soul man, and that was it. And I was ready at that time because I know who I am, now, and I knew that I didn't have to repeat the past. And so, and I didn't even know that he was already in my community, and I already knew him. I really realigned with who I am and realigned with my femininity. And from now on, this is who I am, and I'm not going to be anything else.
No, he's a manly man, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
So no, I talk about this all the time. We talk about this all the time, right? So what happens to a woman when the man, you allow the man to be the man, you allow the man to support, to help, to show up, to take care. What does happen to you?
Oh, well, I get to be feminine. I get to be my true self. I get to show up exactly how I am, authentic, vulnerable, and soar as a human being, woman, and support him in soaring in his masculinity and what he wants to do, and providing for me and receiving, which is some of the things that's so hard for women sometimes. It's just receiving, because you have to be vulnerable to receive, and let him provide for you and let him protect you.
Which is it's another step into vulnerability. What happens when if you've been masculinized by the culture, to let anybody do anything for you, right? How many times I hear this, like, I'm uncomfortable with this. If he buys dinner, like, now I owe him. I owe him. No,
or this is going to come back and hit me,
right? Or
like,
but let's see, 3 or 4 dates. He's just spend like $250, $300-$400, whatever. Like now I owe him. Now it's uncomfortable because now he's going to expect stuff, right? That's all backwards. That's all like seeing it from a masculine point of view. When you understand real masculinity in men use money as a tool to have fun, and we have this aloofness about it. Well, we'll make more or whatever. The money is just for fun. Money is to spoil you. Money is for play. Do you know what I mean? We're not attached to it the same way that, a lot of you kind of seem to. Like we see it as a play tool. So for me to make money, to spend it on you because I like you, that's fun. I don't think like, aha, I got her now. Like she owes me. I mean, it's not that. It doesn't occur that way to us at all. But if you don't get that, then you'll take it as in like, which is and then that's part of the culture. What's wrong? Like if you can be vulnerable, and you insist on doing it yourself, there's no one for him to do what he does best. There's no one for him to be the man. There's no one for him to provide, protect, and actually, because the moment like you help in any way we can, right? Because the moment we do this, when we feel like men. Yeah. And our favorite thing to do is to feel like men, right? Like, let me do something, let me help, right? But if you're badass and you got it all covered, he doesn't get to be. He doesn't get to be himself. And then, my last girlfriend before my wife was one of those, She when she was not able to be vulnerable, she would not let me help in any way. And then at the time I was surrounded with artists who were broke. All my friends were broke. I was doing well. They were all broke. And I was always, because she needed nothing from me, would not let me, I would run around and help my friends. And eventually she's like, you're always helping your friends. I need help too. I'm like, really? How do you need help? Tell me where you need help. And she choked because she wouldn't.
Wow.
And then we ended up, it's interesting because we didn't fight. We didn't like break up because we're fighting. We broke up because I had no purpose as a man in her life. I could not bring, I was bringing nothing to her. She would not let me bring anything to her. She could not be vulnerable enough to let me in at all.
Or available.
Right. She was
Right.
not available to
Yeah.
me. You know, my girl, she was just like, you know, so we kind of faded apart and she's like, I don't understand. I'm like, well, so anyway, that's the tragedy of, you know, when women get stuck in their masculine. Is there anything you want to ask? Because you've been quiet and I'm thinking there's probably something that we could throw in here.
Yeah, something I've been rolling on, and you know, obviously you can lead a horse to water kind of thing. If a woman just thinks that she's on the right path, then she's not even going to consider this. But for women who are just starting to go, this isn't quite what I thought. Do you have, how can we support them into, you know, making a transition or going on a different route? And for you, when we were chatting prior to the podcast, you have this insatiable curiosity and need for knowledge, and which is similar to Andre. It's just like unending. But so many people can be complacent until it's unbearable, you know. And you're on such a mission to keep people from that pain. Is there something you could say maybe to women that could help inspire them to think, maybe there's a different way for me?
Yes. Well, I know that the struggle is real with that, and there could be some fear in letting go, because that's what's always worked, you know, or maybe you've thought it worked, but you didn't really get the results that you wanted, but it's the only thing you know. I would just invite you, to any woman out there, is to do a little soul searching and listen to that knock, because our soul is knocking at us all the time. You know, that intuition or that voice or whatever it is, it's always knocking at us, and we pay attention to it and we kind of push it away a little bit. And to really invite that, you know, you can do it through journaling, or you can do it through just sharing with a friend, like, do you ever feel like this? And I think I might want to do this, because the what is feminine fulfillment question is so intriguing. It's intriguing for everybody, like, what is this? What is fulfillment? And, you know, beyond happiness into fulfillment, that there is something more. And just an invitation to go towards that, to see what it is for you, because each woman has their own feminine fulfillment recipe.
God, that's
Wow.
beautiful.
Wow.
Okay, so
Yeah,
something you want to ask, is you girls are on.
I know.
I'm not putting you on the spot. If you don't, it's fine. It's just like,
No,
we
it's
have a
okay.
gem right
I'm
here.
just,
like, so
I'm
stuff
just
slide
taking
in.
all of this in.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Any advice you would give to someone in their 20s? Just, I mean, I feel like I'm bombarded all the time. I'm in school right now by this kind of be it all, do it all, have it all energy. And it's hard on me. And how to counteract that? What steps can you take to kind of reach that femininity again?
Yeah, I love that. It's normal in your 20s to be really ambitious and to want to have that and to hone in on that and use all of the energy that you have when you're young to do that. But to know that there's more ways of going about it than you think. So to search and discover and say, you know, what feels good? What feels right? Like, what would make me feel self-full? It's different than selfish. That's not the same thing. Being self-full is making yourself fulfilled. Like, your confidence and your esteem, checking in with yourself and saying, does this make me feel confident? Does this make me feel good? Does this make me feel feminine? Does this make me feel like I'm aligned? Does this make me feel like I'm on track? Is this going to get me where I want to go? And am I true to myself? And just checking in every day and really just minding your mind, minding your heart, minding your soul, and just checking in with your self-fullness, because that's really going to go really quick. It's not a long process. It's just like check in.
Yeah.
Yes
just
or
to
no.
check
And you
in.
know, your
Yeah.
intuition will tell you. Every time your
Yeah.
intuition always tells you the truth.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I want to come up with something, the kind of support men are looking for from women. Women make impossible in their culture now because they think it's a masculine type way. Doesn't work for men, blah, blah, blah. So when you retweak and you recalibrate this energy that is you as a woman, a fantastically radiant woman, right? Like I can imagine what it does to him. And then there's going to be language and words and feelings about this. Talk to me.
Yeah. Well, when we first met and we went on our first date, our second date was the next day. He asked me out in the first hour of our first date to go on the second date the next night.
Wow.
And it was wonderful. And he cooked for me, and it was beautiful. And I told him, hey, I have this list. And this may be too soon, but you need to know, you need to know who I am, and this is what I'm really looking for. And so I read him, and I told him that it was the name of it, my Heart and Soul Band list. And as I was reading, he was like, and I kept going. And after the list, and he said, there's nothing on that list that I'm not already, or I can't provide for you.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a gasp moment. And it was true. And so when I asked him, well, do you have a list? And actually he did, because he had just gone to a course. And he wrote that out. And the good thing is I matched, because I didn't want to waste his time. And I'm not going to water myself down. I'm not going to be anything that I'm not.
Not at that point,
and
right?
one of the things on my list is that he calls me beautiful like it's my name. And he does. He texted me when we didn't live together. He texted me, good morning, beautiful. He calls me beautiful all the time, like it is my name. And he, wants to know what would make me happy. He wants to please me, and he knows how to make me feel protected and provided for. He already knows, and I let him in on what makes me feel scared, or this. I communicate with him, and I make a commitment to communicate with him too, but empowering him in his language and how he provides for me, and letting him know how much I appreciate it, and oh, that makes me feel safe, and oh, that makes me feel so loved, and I really inspire him with my work too. I mean, what I do and what I'm committed to and my passion, he praises a lot, he's my biggest fan, and he likes that feminine part of me. I mean, he loves it. Actually,
yeah,
and he brings the masculine, to my feminine, and we go off each other like that. He honors me, and I was able to share with him, and and just be vulnerable. And he didn't judge, and he loved me more for even sharing those stories and letting him out. And yeah,
vulnerability, I say all the time as well. Vulnerability, nothing good happens without vulnerability.
Yeah.
So as scary as it is, scary as hell. It's a must. Otherwise, you're just always floating on the surface.
Yeah.
You're never really getting down. Woo! Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Definitely.
Yes, no, I mean, fantastic having you on the podcast. The book, again, one more time. It's just called Feminine Fulfillment for Women Over 40 by Paige Parker. So where can they get it?
You can go to femininefulfillmentbook.com. You could visit me on Facebook. I'm Paige Parker. And on Instagram, I'm the Paige Parker.
Very cool.
Tess, for the rest of the audience, how do they find us and get a hold of us?
Sure. The Facebook page is Project Equinox with Andre Paradis. We have content on there all the time. The website is projectequinox.net. We have articles, we have blog, written material, video, YouTube links as well. This is where you can subscribe. We have content weekly. This is also where you can contact Andre for coaching and events.
Paige, absolutely amazing to have you here.
Thank
you so much. She traveled
It's an
2
honor for
hours.
me.
Wow.
She traveled 2 hours to come and join us. Come on, in studio.
Ain't no mountain high enough.
Till next week.
Until next week.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you,
so much.
Andre.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.